Connecting. There he is.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Jones.
Hi.
We can't see the top of your head.
Yeah, I figured that. Here, I'll get it adjusted.
There we are. And then mine.
All right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Jones.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, Mr. Jones is actually related to me. He is my brother-in-law, and he works for the Department of Water here in Dallas. And so I'm going to let him take it away. What are you going to show us today, Mr. Jones?
All right, today we're going to do something, perform something called a DPD test. And what a DPD test does is it measures the amount of chlorine that's present in water. So we have to have chlorine in water in order to make sure that everybody's drinking safe water is safe. In Texas, there's something called a chlorine residual. So we have to make sure that chlorine is present at all times. And so with the DPD test that we normally perform, we get a sample from maybe 1 or 2 different points, and we add a special chemical in a little pillow packet. And when we add that chemical, that pillow packet will turn the color of the water a pink to red color. And the color, depending upon how much chlorine is present, will be dark or light. And so I have 2 samples here that I've already kind of picked up, and I'll hold them up as I add the pillow packet. But one sample actually came from the cold faucet in this facility, and the other one came from a water bottling company that actually sells bottled water. And so what we're going to do is going to add these little pillow packets to each sample, and depending upon the color of the water, that'll let us know the chlorine content. And so we'll go ahead and start with, I have it marked here, you can't see it, but I have it marked with letter A. It's to my, it's actually to my left. And so we're going to add this packet, and then what we're going to do is we're going to measure the residual. We use a device, well, this is kind of a field device we use, and what this device does is it shows the color of the sample in correspondence with this color wheel. So depending on how dark it is, it'll let us know what the sample corresponding color is, and then along each color, there's a number, and that number will let us know what the residual is. So we'll go ahead and add that to point number A.
So, Mr. Jones, the darker red, the more chlorine, or the more chlorine is in the water?
Yes.
Okay.
If there's a lot of chlorine present, it'll be really, really dark.
Really dark.
Not as much, it'll be like a light pink, and perhaps it won't show a color, but it normally will change, regardless of what it may look like.
All right, I want you to put in your predictions. So he's going to put it into water that comes out of our faucets here in our home. Water A, what color do you think it's going to be? Let's see, what do we think? What color will the water be? Water that comes from our home. Will it be in the lighter pink range, medium, or dark, dark red? All right, anybody? Oh, somebody said hopefully not too red.
Okay.
That is definitely what we don't want, right? We don't want our water that we drink to be too red.
It won't hurt us if it is red. It's just we do this test so we'll let the plants know, hey, we need to pull back on the chlorine. We're adding too much. And so this is a really good test because, you know, you don't want the water to have that swimming pool effect, that smell, because that's a little bit too much. But it's still going to be safe to drink, but it's just a little bit too much. We want to get it right in the middle, right where it's safe to drink, but it doesn't have that really offensive odor, that strong chlorine swimming pool smell.
Raise your hand if you would want to drink swimming pool water. Drink every day. Swimming pool water has lots of chlorine, and so obviously it doesn't smell good and it doesn't taste good. You know how when you drink pool water, you're like,
Sure.
It's not so appetizing. All right, so we have some people say that they think it's going to be dark red.
Okay.
We have some predictions that say it's going to be in the lighter side. All right, let's see, Mr. Jones.
So I'm wearing a white shirt, so now we'll be able to see the reaction a little bit better. So I'm adding it to the water.
Oh, wow.
You see what color it turned?
And this is the water here at our house, right?
Yes.
That comes out of our faucet.
Yes. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad
Mm-hmm.
thing. It just shows that there's a lot of chlorine. So what we would normally do is we would place this inside of our testing sample, and then we would turn the wheel, and then based on the color that we have, that'll give us the residual.
The number.
Yeah, the number.
Kool-Aid. It does look like Kool-Aid. It's a Kool-Aid color. It's a fruit punch Kool-Aid color.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so remember, like he said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have that much chlorine in the water, but it doesn't taste as good, right? And it doesn't smell. Does it affect the taste?
A little bit, but
a little.
It'll get rid of the algae type of a taste, that grassy.
That dirt taste.
Yeah, the dirty.
Like
gritty.
how groundwater would taste, like that dirt.
That's correct.
Rock, yeah.
That's correct. And remember, in Texas, all water facilities, be it groundwater or surface water, they all have to have chlorine. They all have to use chlorine at some point. And that is a state rule, a state law. So there's no way around that. So it's going to be some chlorine added at some point in the treatment process of surface water and groundwater. All right, we'll try our next sample.
Okay, so this is the water bottle?
Yep. And then we'll see how it fares.
All right, let me see. Type in your predictions. The water that comes from a water bottle that you buy at the store. What color do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be in the light pinkish? Or is it going to be dark, 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 dark? Super dark. Let's see. What do you think? I want to see your predictions. Type them in. Okay, so remember the tap water, the water that comes out of our faucets here in the home, we're kind of a red, pinkish, or a dark pink red. The fuchsia. Okay, dark pink. Kalia says dark pink. Anybody else? Nathan says light pink. Okay. All right, anybody else? I'm going to give you a couple more seconds and then we're going to see what color we get. Light pink. Okay, another light pink. Okay, you want to go ahead?
All right.
All right, let's see. Oh, okay, what do we see? What color?
It's a little darker.
It's a little darker. It's very similar, which is good, right? Because that means that the water that we drink out of a water bottle is just as safe or healthy as the water we drink out of a tap.
That's correct. Because bottled water is water that's been contained inside a bottle. If you put it in a box, it would be boxed water. So it's exactly the same. And you're going to have a chlorine residual, and there's nothing wrong with a dark color because chlorine does something called dissipation. It dissipates over time, and so we have to continually add chlorine. Dissipates means it disappears. It doesn't lose, it loses its strength. It's not as strong or potent. So we have to constantly add it. So having it here is okay because it's going to make sure that residual is maintained, even if some of the dissipation does happen. You'll see 7-Elevens and stores put water outside. Well, that helps with dissipation. So if we add a little, that'll help it to where if it does dissipate, we'll still have this is kind of not where we would like for the residual to be. We'd like it to be a little, but there's nothing wrong with this. This is okay. And it's safe to drink. Either one will work. You don't pass out or anything, but they're both going to be safe to drink and both be healthy and safe for everybody that either consumes something from a bottle or consumes it from the tap.
That's good. So this shows us that it's healthy to drink our tap water. So you don't have to be scared. So that water that we use to brush our teeth and to cook and to make our food, our coffee and our drinks, it's healthy to drink.
Yep.
It's safe. All right. So can you tell us a little bit about what's the process in Dallas? Like, where do we get our water from, and kind of where does it go? Where does it travel
Okay.
to our
Primarily,
home?
primarily in Dallas, we have about 5 or 6 lakes that we utilize, Lake Tawakoni, Lake Ray Hubbard, Lake Fork, Lake Louisville. Those are all owned by the Dallas Water Utilities. They have the water rights, so they use the equipment and the personnel, and those are all man-made lakes. Someone actually excavated and filled it up with water. So normally what a treatment plant will do is a treatment plant will have a large water main that will bring the water into the treatment plant. Once it reaches the treatment plant, then we use something called ozone. Ozone is an oxidizer, and also ozone is a really strong disinfectant. So once water is introduced to ozone, then it moves to another area, which we call a rapid mix. And with a rapid mix, we use something called a coagulant. And a coagulant allows things that you can't see in water to become visible, and it rises to the top. And it's like an orange foam that it forms. So once we get that coagulant working along with lime, and of course we do add chlorine, we add a fluoride or fluorosilicic acid. Once we do that, then we move the water through different parts of the treatment process. One part is sedimentation. Once you get that coagulation and you get the things that you can't see in water, once they're visible, they get heavy and they fall out. And once they fall out, that's called sediment or sedimentation. Once the water goes through the sedimentation process, then it moves to another area, and it goes through something called, kind of like what Ms. V was saying, it goes through a filtration. Groundwater is naturally filtered, but with the filtration process, it takes everything that's left out of the water. Once the filtration process is finished, then the water is sent to another area called a clear well. And the clear well is where everything that can possibly be done to make the water clean, it goes into a storage capacity or storage facility on the treatment plant. At that point, we take that water clear well and we send it to a pumping division. Because when you turn on your water is under pressure. It comes out really strong. It doesn't drip out. So when we send it to the pumping division, they send it to everybody's homes and businesses. And once you use that water, then that water goes into your house that you use to wash your hands, wash your dishes, and other things. Then that water washes down the drain, and then that water is sent to a group called wastewater collections. Wastewater collections, they make sure the water leaves your house from your drain, from your toilet, from your bathtub. Then the wastewater collection group, they take that water, they send it to a wastewater treatment plant. At that time, by the state rule, the wastewater has to be treated before it's let loose again back out to another form, like another river. And so most of our water here in the Dallas area, it will travel further south toward the Houston area. And so it's just a big kind of big recycling circle, pretty much.
Yeah, and so the water goes through many, many steps, right, before it gets to us.
We got a 6 to 8 hour window to get this the water treated so we can use it. So it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, and this is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week process. It never stops, it closes. Even though this is a quarantine period now, there are individuals at the treatment plant, and that is a state rule.
They're working.
Yeah, there are.
It's one of those essential jobs. They have to be at work because we can't not have water.
Correct. Water, wastewater collections, and wastewater treatment and pumping division, they're all working.
They're all working. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Jones, for joining us. We were able to learn a lot about our water here in Dallas. Remember, we have to have some chlorine in our water to keep it clean. So even in our tap water and our bottled water, they all have some type of chlorine in there to keep it clean. All right. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Jones.
No problem.
Thank you for joining us. All right. So we are going to continue. So I want you to remember that the name of this project, yes, thank you, Lindy. The name of this project is called The Ripple Effect. The ripple effect. A ripple effect is when one thing leads to another, kind of like a domino. If you were to drop one domino, they would all start to fall, right? So the purpose of this project is to learn how the really small, even though we do something very small, like maybe we have a bottle of cleaner, house cleaner, and we dump it down the drain. That's just one small little thing. But eventually, those small things can lead to big reactions and big consequences that can affect our water. So remember our aquifer, the pollution is getting lower and lower. And so we have to watch and be careful of pollution because it affects everything and everyone. Okay, so for your project, I want you to think about, remember, you're going to conduct an experiment. This is for the second graders in my GT class. You have to create an experiment that can show, look, it's going even lower. Look at that, it's already in there. See it? It's already contaminated the groundwater. So I want you to come up with an experiment to answer an important water question, okay? How does pollution affect the environment? How can we conserve water? How can we not waste it? Okay, so I want you to think about what kind of an experiment you're gonna make. Remember, you have until May 18th. May 18th is when your project is due, so you need to start working on it now because this is a project that should take you some time. It shouldn't be something that you do very quickly. Okay, before we leave today, I'm going to show you a video that's going to summarize what we've learned about today. So let me open it up. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Okay, so this video is going to show us a summary about what we've learned about groundwater, what we've learned about pollution. And then when this video is over, I'm going to explain to you what I want you to do for today's lesson. Here we go. Okay.
We all know the earth is full of water, but there's a lot more to water than all that blue stuff you see on the globe. The water we can see on the surface of the earth is surface water. Surface water is every lake, pond, river, stream, and ocean on earth. But in the ground below your feet, there's even more water, groundwater. Groundwater is water that's crammed in the tiny gaps between rocks, soils, and sediments under the ground. A full body of groundwater is called an aquifer. There are huge aquifers all across America. The biggest is the High Plains Aquifer, which covers 174,000 square miles right in the middle of the country. Anything that big deserves a closer look. Let's say you could grab a shovel and dig straight down through the soils to an aquifer. The level underground where you first hit groundwater is called the water table. Below the water table, the ground is completely soaked or saturated with water, which is why this area is called the saturated zone. The area above the water table is called the unsaturated zone. So, how does all this water end up in the ground? Well, it's all a part of the good old water cycle. When it rains, some water gets soaked up by plants. Some water runs into the soil and into streams, lakes, or even the ocean. Other water gets stuck on the surface and eventually evaporates back into the air. Meanwhile, some of the lucky water droplets get to travel down through the surface deep underground until they reach the water table and become a part of an aquifer. Once water seeps down deep enough into the ground, it can stay there for a really long time. Some of the water stored in the deepest parts of aquifers has been there for thousands of years. But after it gets there, groundwater doesn't always stay in the ground. A lot of the water on the surface comes from aquifers. If the surface of the ground dips below the water table, groundwater flows out into the space, creating a body of surface water. If the surface water dries up, groundwater can flow in to fill it back up. And if the water table in this area rises, so does the level of the surface water. Groundwater can also pour down a sloping surface, creating streams. Any place where groundwater flows out into the surface is called a spring. Surface water can also become groundwater. If a body of surface water flows above the water table, water can seep down through the sediment and help fill the aquifer. Of course, there's another way that groundwater can leave the ground. Us. Humans depend on groundwater, and there are thousands of wells all over the country that draw water out of aquifers. In many parts of the country, the water you get from the tap comes from the ground. However, we use most of our groundwater to help grow the food we eat. Farms can get lots of the water they need from rain, but rain isn't always enough. And in dry years, farmers depend even more on the water that's stored in the ground. In fact, American farms use about 53 billion gallons of groundwater every day. That's enough to fill over 1 million bathtubs or 80,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So, if we're using that much every day, can it run out? Well, yes and no. Remember, aquifers can be refilled by rainwater or surface water seeping in from rivers and streams, so there's usually more water on its way to replenish the aquifer. But if we use groundwater faster than the aquifers can refill, we could drain them dry. They probably wouldn't be empty forever, but it would take hundreds of years for the largest aquifers to get back to healthy levels. Whether it's up here or down there, water and how we use it matters. We may not be able to see it every day, but groundwater makes our lives possible. So don't let show-offs like rushing rivers and roaring oceans get all the attention. Those unseen aquifers below ground have been here longer than we have, and with a little love and care, they'll keep on taking care of us long into the future.
All right, so we were able to review what we've learned about aquifers, the importance of taking care of our water and our pollution. We use it every day. Okay, so we want to conserve it, we want to keep it pollution free, and we want to do everything we can to teach others so that they can know, because many people, they don't do these things on purpose. They don't purposefully want to pollute and to contaminate, but sometimes they don't know that they're doing it. And so it's our job and it's your job as students, because you have so much potential, and people listen to you. Adults will listen to kids more than they will listen to other adults. So if you as a student learn and research and do as much as you can teach others so that they can protect the earth. And that's the purpose of this project. I want you to use your intelligence and your brain, and I want you to come up with ways of teaching others what you've learned about water and the importance of water. Okay, so I'm going to finish off by showing you a bit of our website, okay, because I want you to be going to our website at least once a week. So remember, this is GT with Miss B, and you will go to, this is for our second grade project, and it is called The Ripple Effect. Now, I've added a lot of fun things to the website, so make sure that you're going. Okay, so remember, we have different lessons. Where is water found? Water conservation, water pollution. Last time we learned about the scientific method and the 6 steps in order to conduct an experiment. This is your final project that will be due on May 18th. These are 2 of the questions that you can answer, and you're going to design an experiment. This is the guide. This is what your project should be. You're going to select a topic. You're going to develop a question and a hypothesis, and you're going to conduct the research, and then you're going to share that research with everyone. Remember, that's the last step is communication. Okay, and so I've added something. So here is something called The Adventures of Drippy the Water Drop. And this is going to take you to an online book where you can learn all about the water cycle and how water travels. Remember, Mr. Jones told us a lot about where our water goes in order to get it here in Dallas. Water takes lots of trips throughout its life. Okay, and then there's also an online game called Green Man and the Global Climate Change. And if you click here, you can play this game online. It looks like this. So make sure you're going to the website and you're clicking on these links. And even if you're not in second grade, if you have time when you finish your classwork, you can come and you can see what the other kids are doing. Okay, so this is the game here. That's on there. And then I talked about this sorting game. And something else that I'm going to add, I think I tried to, did I add it? I was trying to add it the other day. There, I have a comic book that's about water. And I'm going to be adding that to the website as well so that you can read all about water. All right, boys and girls, thank you for joining me today. Remember, for your assignment, this is what I want you to do. I want you to draw the model of the aquifer that we created. And I want you to write about, use some of the vocabulary words. We learned what an aquifer is, groundwater, a well, porous. Remember, porous means that the water is able to get between the rocks because there's space. Okay, so I want you to use the vocabulary. I want you to draw a model of an aquifer, and I want you to write about what you learned about the importance of water, and also what you learned from Mr. Jones about where our water comes from here in the city of Dallas. All right, I look forward to seeing what you come up with in your assignments and your pictures and your writings. If you have any questions, remember you can message me and I will answer any questions that you have. All right, thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a fabulous week. Okay, do all that you can and learn as much as you can today. I want you to use your brain, and I want you to brainstorm and work collaboratively with your teachers and your classmates.